Hey guys, and welcome back to Let's Build Evil Fortress number 4, Inner Towers. Now, it's been ages since we've hit the Kingdom world to work on the fortress, and that's mostly because of the hustle and bustle over Christmas with the live stream and whatnot. But we're back after the holiday break to once again work on our Bastion of Evil, nestled away in the wilds to the east of the Kingdom. One thing I've added before we begin is a smattering of fire over the netherrack blocks you see here around our fortress to make the place look a little bit more nefarious. But detail is something that we're going to be going back to the Evil Fortress for and covering later. And this is especially true for this episode because we're working on the inner towers. A lot of my time was spent climbing and climbing with the darker stone brick texture, fleshing out the foundations we have for these towers, and giving us a canvas that we'll work on later. But as we build these towers, all we really want to start with is the framework to show how high we want to build them, and once we have that in place, we can get busy with hooking them up with walkways, adding extra turrets and towers that sprout from the sides of these structures to basically flesh out the whole citadel in general and give the place a bit more personality. So you see me here again climbing 3 blocks at a time with the main citadel tower. And this is oddly shaped because it's going to be 2-tier. And once we get to a level that I'm happy with, we'll split the tower in 2 and continue to climb with a thinner tower on the inside. And you'll see what I mean shortly. But that's the reason for the irregular shape when you look at the back and the corners. Now again, you see the sides of this tower are incredibly bland, and that's what I mean when I say that we're coming back to the detail later on. All we need is the framework in place. And once I was at a level that I was happy with, I looked at the foundations, added a wooden floor, and began to climb again with a smaller tower inside the tower. And that's the split I was talking about. Then I added crenellations in the form of dark stone bricks and iron bars, and as you can see here, we've got this kind of effect that we have on the middles of the other towers, the outer towers, that also split into 2. They also have the same kind of crenellations, the same design. And that's what I stuck with before I carried on building upwards with the main tower. Now again, I was just climbing up and not adding any detail to the sides of the towers because it's something that I'm probably going to, if you see the tower on the right there, the one that we partially built with the wooden fence posts decorating the sides, I think that's a theme we might use on the other spherical towers, the other cylindrical towers. But since these towers are slightly weirdly designed, with the odd corner there, and the rounded edges, the rounded corners, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to manage the detail, but again, it's probably a kind of detail that I'll repeat on the outer towers. Now before I got a certain way, I started to realise, hang on a sec, there's a height level that I can't build above. So I got out some nether brick blocks and built as high as I could. And it was then that I realised I was a long way off the height limit to the world. So I left the spike in place and came down to start work on the other towers. This is another drum tower, similar to the size of the one you see there on the left that hooks up to one of the outer towers. And I didn't climb all the way up with this. Again, I just wanted to get a little bit of height onto these towers, onto the foundations, so that when I'm building the other ones, I have a rough idea in my head of how these things can connect to each other when I'm building the walkways. Now I imagine the detail on this tower is going to be very similar to the detail on the tower you see to the left. However, I've got a few ideas for windows and turrets that I want to experiment with when I come back to this tower. But once this was at the same level as the first section of the main tower, I came around the other side of the castle, the other side of the fortress, and started to work on the back towers here. Now these towers, like the one you see connected almost to the walkway on the right, has a slight lip at the bottom, and that's a theme I wanted to stick with for a few of these towers. So I built a 3-block up lip, went 1 block inside that circle, and took the tower up again 3 blocks by 3, slowly climbing to the heavens. And then once I was built quite far up with that, I came down and started work on the second tower. And instead of going around 3 blocks by 3 on this tower, I decided to build each block up in a spike. And I'm not sure if it was quicker or not, but in the end it achieved the same effect. The way you see me building these blocks is very monotonous. I mean, you're basically looking down, building up by 3 blocks, and then working your way around the edge, and constantly right-clicking as well. So if you have a mouse that has macro buttons, one thing that you can do to save time is to build yourself a macro that constantly right-clicks, and then whenever you are building like this, you can just engage that macro and save yourself a bit of clicking. Or alternatively, you can use World Edit and save yourself a whole bunch of time. Now, I brought the main tower up to about this far. This is as high as I wanted it. And what I wanted to use with the rounded corners you see there, the 3 rounded corners, I wanted these to be 3 focuses of power. So what I did was I built up these jagged kind of turret towers on the rounded corners. And the plan was, once these were done and decorated with the same pattern, was to add 3 giant gemstones on top of them. And for the gemstones, I decided to use obsidian, gold, and lapis lazuli. Once they were in place, I wanted to cap off these towers with roofs similar to the ones on the outer towers, which means slightly steeper and more spiked. And once I had this design I was happy with, I replicated it on the other 2 towers. And there we go. 3 gemstone towers with red nether brick rooftops. I then crenellated the top level here, which I came out with in a kind of diamond shape, because I wanted there to be a giant kind of focus here for all the evil. What I decided I was going to build here was a hell portal. So here you see, I built this out of obsidian, and the portals are going to be the 2 at the bottom, and then it was very difficult to get this just right, but I wanted a kind of skull to be arrayed above the 2 portals, and that's what I built out of obsidian here. And then as we zoom over the landscape, we're reminded just how eerily close the evil fortress is. Now the sides of the walls and the towers are very bland at the moment. That's going to change when we add windows, decorations, walkways, that are going to interlock all of them, as well as turrets that lean out, similar to how we did on the Mage Tower, if you remember from the Kingdom. But we're going to lean out with towers and struts, and it's going to look like a very different place to how it does now. And there you see the giant skull portal on top of the main tower. So I've been Sjin, and thanks for watching this episode of Let's Build. We'll be coming back pretty soon to continue work on the Evil Fortress. But until then, like and favourite if you've enjoyed the series and want to support it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.